Hi there. In this lecture we see Gutnikov against Mikhail Tal in 1951, Leningrad. So we see e4 and Mikhail Tal plays e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6. So 4 knights, and this is the Scotch variation. So d4, e takes, knight d5. A very interesting gambit here. So 2 pawns are offered and Tal takes both of them now. It takes this pawn on e4. We see queen e2 and now f5. Okay, this looks a little bit maybe on the dangerous side in that is it too materialistic? g4, and we see an outrageous looking move now by Mikhail Tal. It turns out here Tal played king f7. It seems a little bit scary to do this. Actually, d6 overall does look a little bit safer. If g takes, bishop takes, for example, say queen b5, that looks at b7, and also, it threatens knight takes c7 check. But black can just play bishop e7 here and accept knight takes c7. Overall, after d5, black can give both pawns back here and get a fantastic position. For example, this situation is just very, very nice for black. Just giving back both pawns and is doing very well positionally. It's a fantastic position with great targets. So it does seem as though d6 overall is a very interesting option here. So just to recap, this situation, it looks as though it's pretty tenable. If knight takes e7 as another example, queen takes, then queen takes f5 is a trap. Knight g3 check is winning the queen. So that's not possible either for white. So, okay, king f7 though, and we see bishop f4. It turns out here, this is pretty controversial by Mikhail Tal. White could have played g takes f5. And the key point is, for example, bishop c4, bishop f4. And this is just a nasty position for black. If d6, white can even take on e4 now because there's a hook into the black position with that f5 pawn. If rook e8, then knight g5 check and knight e6. So this would have been the way to go, it seems, g takes f5 to undermine that knight. So I wouldn't try king f7 at home like in this game. So the early Tal taking a bit of a risk here. It does seem a relatively risky move. However, white's human and didn't play g takes f5 but tried to increase the pressure, and it looks lucrative to hit c7, d6, and white castles queenside. Now bishop e6. So a slight downside of white's play is that d5 is also, it's not supported by anything. There's no pawn supporting this knight. We see queen c4 and now knight e7. And there's the realization, actually, this pin is kind of painful. There's no knight g5, really, because the knight's controlling g5. So what does white do? White seems to go into Tal mode here and play knight takes c7, offering a queen sacrifice. Is it good? Well, Tal just takes the queen, and now, after this check, d5. We see knight e5 check, and here, it is a very interesting position. Black does need to tread carefully. We see king going to g8, knight takes d5, and before anything brews up on this diagonal, but you can see something could brew up on this sensitive diagonal. Tal plays a very interesting defensive approach in this position. So for 100 points, what do you think Tal does, and what does it extinguish in terms of a tactical idea? Well, actually, that's a bit of a hard question. What does Tal do here on the board? What move does he play? And I'll tell you what it kind of represents to me. Okay, Tal actually just takes the sting out of white's position by getting rid of the whole pin concept. He wipes out the pin with queen takes d5. He's saying to white, you're not going to have, a pin you're going to increase pressure on. So it's an extreme approach, and it's the best approach. Although, knight takes d5, it might be tenable as well. But it looks a little bit scary that black has to be very resourceful here. For example, this situation. And, white does get a bit of material. But overall, black's still doing well here. But there's a lot of pressure still. There's a lot of complexity. So Tal's approach wipes out the complexity by sacking the queen. And now getting rid of that bishop. And, black is a piece up. But a pawn down here. White does have the extra pawn. We see knight going back. The knight could have actually taken on f2 here. And then knight takes g4. This is a plausible way of playing things. And black will be doing very well there. So knight f6 though. We see h4. F takes. h5. Knight ed5 hitting that bishop. The bishop moves. Even though it's protected. We see knight b6, and now white gets into more tactical trouble with rook f4. Guess what Tal plays in this position? Okay. Yeah, he just actually plays this to try and encourage the rook to trap itself, which white obliges rook f5. The rook's kind of trapped, potentially. Bishop e7. Especially after this next move. So this reinforces f6, and white actually creates a kind of weakness for the last move of h6. Tal just plays g6 and says, look, what are you doing with this rook? Yeah, it hasn't got any squares. And white is basically losing material here. It's a hopeless position. If bishop takes f6, then we could just take the rook. And yeah, material up. Thanks very much. There's no problem here. So, yeah, an interesting game. It seems, a bit of a king safety risk. King f7 was taken in this game. So, this is like an evolution of Tal, these early years. And you can see, king safety, and especially the opponent's king safety, becoming a major stylistic factor of Mikhail Tal. But in this game, yeah, he does seem to take, in theory, a bit of a risk with king f7. It is pretty difficult to navigate through the complexity here with d6. If you look at this does seem as though this is an interesting kind of punishment of issues, this position. Yeah, it seems if black's prepared to give both pawns back and very energetic d5. This kind of stuff is very difficult to kind of calculate dynamically, giving back both pawns, but it would have ended up in a much clearer approach than the game. But in the game, yeah, bishop f4 wasn't as punishing as needed. And so here, yeah, things get super interesting after this bishop e6. So d6 wasn't actually just defensive. It did have a kind of positive upside in opening up the bishop to be able to hit d5, which started to cause white to take more and more, gambles, which just didn't pay off. So a very interesting tactical game indeed. I hope you enjoyed that. Fascinating stuff. Thanks very much. Hi there. Thanks for getting to the end of the YouTube video. If you would like to see other Mikhail Tal games, I actually have an amazing course for Mikhail Tal, which is currently at 4.9 with over 400 students. You can check this out from the Kingscrusher TV page. So Chess Strategy and Tactics, Mikhail Tal's amazing games. You can check out some free preview videos as well here. If you do expand all sections, you can see the preview links to get some free previews. So I hope you do check out this course index and the free previews. So I really had a thrilling time actually checking out Mikhail Tal's games. So yeah, the YouTube video here you saw was just a sample from this course. I hope you check it out. Okay, thanks so much. Oh, by the way, Comments, questions, likes, shares, all appreciated. And if you did get to this part of the video, please do leave some sort of comment like Tal fan. Okay, thanks again.